It's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call our regular council meeting to adjourn for Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming on the District of Summerland YouTube channel at youtube.com/District of Summerland. All representations to council, written or verbal, will be part of the public record and will be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Corporate officer, do we have any late items? None? Okay. Council, can I get an approval of our agenda as is? Councillor Peak, Councillor Van Elfen, all in favor? That's great. Thank you. Consent agenda. Council, is there anything that you would like to take out of that? Seeing none, okay, can I get a motion to bring forward? Thank you. Councillor Patton, Councillor Peak, all in favor? Great. Consent agenda approved. Bylaws from public hearings, we have none. And so we are into my mayor's report. Council has already heard some of these things, so I apologize for repeating it, but I know y'all want to hear it again, so I'm gonna. So it has been a busy 3 weeks filling in for Mayor Holmes while he has been away. I wanted to start by thanking district staff for inviting council to participate in an all-day session of verbal judo. On February 13th, myself, along with councillors Barkwell and Peak and several staff, learned about effective communication skills for engaging with the public and with each other, with the goal of de-escalating difficult situations and generating a positive outcome for everyone. The session was facilitated by our Deputy Fire Chief, Pat Hawks. On the same day, the district also received news that we did not receive the $25 million Green and Inclusive Community Buildings grant that we had hoped to get for our new pool. As local media has been following the story, I spoke with both CBC Radio and Global Okanagan about our disappointment and about regrouping to explore alternative options for our aging recreation center. On Family Day, February 18th, my family and I participated in Summerland Recreation's photo scavenger hunt. We checked out several parks, landmarks, local businesses, and the museum, which also had kids' activities. I wanted to thank our recreation staff, both at the pool and at the arena, as well as museum staff and volunteers for hosting some great events. And of course, thank you to the province for its contribution to funding this day. Following the long weekend, CAO Graham Statt and I met with the South Okanagan Similkameen Medical Foundation to discuss grant opportunities for a team-based and allied care health center proposed to be located in the new Dickinson Avenue Seniors Housing Project. Should this housing project get approval from BC Housing and funding from the Ministry of Health is allocated, the proposed health center will still require additional funding to help with equipment and interior construction. Both Ian Lindsay, who's the foundation's CEO, and Peter Steele, who is the foundation's board chair, expressed a keen interest in this project, but they did want to know more specific information regarding the operating model and a breakdown of how exactly the foundation's grant would be used. They requested that representatives from the Division of Family Practice and Summerland Doctors Group, as well as the Community Foundation, do a formal presentation to their board. Last week, I also attended the Okanagan Regional Library Board meeting where our new chair was elected by acclamation. He is Loyal Woldridge. He's a city councillor from Kelowna. And our new vice chair is West Kelowna councillor Tasha De Silva. The ORL's CEO, Danielle Hubbard, will be visiting all of the member communities, which include Summerland, over the next couple of weeks. And finally, we approved the Library Board strategic plan. Last Thursday, I attended the RDOS meeting for Mayor Holmes. The board and staff are working their way through updating bylaws in response to Bill 44, which is the housing statutes for residential development. We're doing that in Summerland as well. Staff are looking at areas within the regional district that might qualify to be exempt from these rules because of ongoing health and safety issues such as Falder and its water limitations. RDOS CAO Jim Zafino also asked each of the departments to present to the board an overview of their current operations, just as a refresher. So at that meeting, we heard from Andrew Reeder, he's the Senior Manager of Solid Waste, about the efforts being done to move forward with their organics facility located at 1313 Grayback Mountain Road. The RDOS approved a staff recommendation to proceed with the preparation of a detailed universal water metering program, which would apply to all residential water users within the electoral areas in the regional district. The board heard that with low rainfall and high temperatures, there's an increasing strain on reservoirs and infrastructure. So the meters would be a proactive approach to protecting the water systems and conserving water. The RDOS currently operates 10 water systems and only one of them is metered. The board also approved several resolutions to go to SILGA, which is the Southern Interior Local Government Association. We have a conference coming up pretty soon. And of interest to Summerlanders, the board would like the province to explore upgrading and paving the 201 Forestry Road from Penticton to Kelowna to provide a permanent alternate route to Highway 97 following several recent slide events. And finally, the Okanagan-Similkameen Regional Hospital Board, we gave our third and final reading to the 5-year financial plan. The estimated average residential 2024 property tax levy will be $123.92. Last year in 2023, it was $118.02, so just a small increase of about $5. And that is all that I have. Mayor Holmes will be back next week. Sorry that was so long, but it was a busy 3 weeks. CAO, over to you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I'm excited to report that we now have provincial authorization to begin work on the pier. We also just closed a request for quotations on Thursday last week, and we have some solid quotes that came in within our budget. Our environmental window for mussels closes March 26th, but we are feeling good about getting the piles in at this rate before that window closes, which would allow us to then put together the basic pier before the height of summer. Rotary is still fundraising for the special features, but those will come later and can be added on through separate authorizations once the basic design is in. Right now, we are targeting an official grand opening of the pier for July 1st, 2024. Speaking of the Summerland Rotary, they continue to sell tickets for their second 50-50 draw as a contribution to their overall fundraising goal of up to $100,000 for the enhancement of the new pier. Ticket sales close February 28th, so check out the Summerland Rotary website to get your last-minute tickets for this important cause. Tomorrow is also the Eco Village open house from 4 to 6 p.m. at the George Rica Arts Center. And updates on the zoning and conceptual plan for the project will be presented by staff, and more information can be found on the project website at www.summerland.ca/ecovillage. All are welcome to come out and participate in the session, but if you can't make it, please check our website for more information on this exciting project. Now that Family Day is behind us, I wanted to share a few stats. As a reminder, we offered free family swims, free family skating, and a free sport ball demo with crafting opportunities and a photo scavenger hunt. Special thanks to the province who provided partial funding support so this could happen. Overall, 175 people attended the family swims, and 187 rather people attended the family skates, which was great to see. Finally, just a quick mention that wildfire risk reduction work continues through our community wildfire resiliency plan in the 100-hectare area on the west side of the district, just east of McLennan Road. As part of the wildfire risk reduction, there will be pruning, thinning, tree falling, brushing, grazing, debris management, piles and burning and reforestation. So people in and around the area can expect chainsaw running and pile burning to take place. And this work will continue until April 15th, 2024. With that, I conclude my report.
Okay, thank you for that. So on to our public comment opportunity. We have 15 minutes for this. If anybody would like to come up and speak, you have 2 minutes. You can speak to the items on our agenda at this point. Yeah, come on up. I'm just going to check one thing with the corporate officer. Corporate officer, we can speak to 9.1, 9.2, and 9.3. That's correct? Okay, great. That's okay? Okay.
Name,
Hi,
address,
Steve.
serial number and all that?
Yes, everything.
Steve Lorney, 4809 Monroe,
Okay,
here representing the Chamber of Commerce. And I just want to comment on this morning's council meeting where we made a representation. And to our great satisfaction, we got a result that I think will make us happy in terms of the Henry Street project and ensuring that it goes ahead as we envision it, to a use that we envision and that we made quite clear. Of course, the devil's always in the details when it comes to putting together restrictive covenants, land use covenants, all that sort of thing. And we hope to see a good result. So I just wanted to say that before anybody else comments on the possibility. And I think that's it.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And just a quick reminder to those who want to speak right now, we just want to speak specifically to the items. If you have a comment in general about anything else, you're welcome to stay. And at the end of the meeting, we have a second public comment period where you can ask about or talk about anything. So again, this is just for the specific items under development reports. So 9.1, 9.2, and 9.3. We have a gentleman coming up and then we'll go to you next. Again, please state your name and civic address. Thank you.
Testing 1, 2. Oh, there we are. Ken Gray, 9723 Thompson Road. Just to clarify, the Henry Street project is on the agenda coming up soon. Is that right?
Yes, we are dealing with a variance.
A variance.
Yes, you can speak.
Okay, so I'm speaking in support of the project, but providing some rationale. So that's in order?
Sorry, just going to double check. Corporate officer, is that okay?
The deputy mayor, just to provide clarification, you just can't speak to anything that has a statutory notification or a written component to it. So you can't speak to the variances that are proposed. So therefore, if you were commenting on the project in total for the Henry Ave, you would actually have to wait to the second public comment opportunity because the only thing on the agenda for it is directly related to the variances, which are height and parking.
Okay, I'll wait. Thank you.
I apologize for the confusion.
That's okay.
That's partly my fault. Okay, so we're pretty limited to then what we can speak to at this time. So we'll maybe hold comments then until the end of the meeting, because if anybody wants to speak more generally, we'll speak then. Okay. Again, apologies for that confusion. We will move on to development reports. So 9.1, which is the downtown development permit with variances, and this is for the Henry Street development, and I will pass this over to Tyson. Okay. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Peak.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. As I did this morning, I'm going to recuse myself from the room. I am a volunteer with the food bank. I am not a paid person in any way with the project, but I don't want there to be any misunderstanding or persuasion.
Thank you, Councillor Pete, and thank you for clarifying why you're leaving. We will come and get you afterwards. Okay, go ahead, Tyson. Thank you.
Thank you, council. Yes, so before you today, we have an application for a downtown development permit with the variance component located on the civic properties 13204 and 13212 Henry Avenue. Application number DP 24-001. And this is for a 5-story, 60-unit mixed-use affordable housing structure. So just an overview of the neighborhood. So it's basically right in the middle of the downtown, and is within a range of different land uses and densities. So of course, in the downtown core, we'll have a mixed use apartments, retail, grocery stores, pharmacies, and other services. The site is within 1 to 2 blocks of to school fields and Memorial Park. It is across from Town Hall, and it does have access to full urban services, so sewer, water, and storm. And the existing place of worship and vacant lands, or sorry, there is an existing place of worship and the lot next to it is vacant. Should this application proceed, the church would be demolished and replaced. This is just the overview of the zoning bylaw. So the subject properties are zoned central business or CP1. It does allow for apartments and or residential housing in apartment form and commercial component to be located on the ground floor. The zone allows for a maximum height of 4 stories or 15 meters. It permits a floor area ratio of 2.5. However, with density bonusing provisions, it can increase to 3.5. In the official community plan, the subject properties are designated downtown commercial. So this, as you can see on the screen, it's the red. It's 4 areas in the downtown core. It's meant to be near major transportation routes. It's also meant to support and accommodate multi-story apartments with commercial on the ground floor. And furthermore, this designation does promote compact, walkable neighborhoods close to goods and services. It should also be noted that, again, it is utilizing existing infrastructure and that is within the urban growth boundary. On your screen before you, this is an image from the proposed OCP amendments related to the Downtown Neighborhood Action Plan. Within this, the Downtown Neighborhood Area Plan, it is proposed that, that this will be designated in downtown core intensification. So within that designation, it would support mixed uses, very similar to the existing designation, so ground floor commercial and residential above. However, there's slight variation in that this designation would support up to 6 stories rather than 4. This image here is just to highlight the cycling network and proposed and existing. So it is located to 3 to 4 future routes. These routes are typically meant to be separated and protected and would connect to the rest of the district. This cycling master plan as well, and due to its proximity, would promote the use of cycling, of course, which would encourage active living and also allow persons with mobility scooters to use the lanes as well. And ideally reduce the usage of vehicles for in-town transportation. This slide here just shows, highlights the existing sidewalk network. So it's well serviced from a pedestrian perspective. However, it has been noted that some of the existing sidewalks are quite narrow. And as part of this application, there will be frontage upgrades required. So onto the proposal. So the applicants are proposing 60 units over 5 stories. The project overall meets the OCP policies and objectives, and overall meets the zoning requirements, aside from the variances being requested to reduce the number of, my apologies. Yes, and also meets the design guidelines and overall meets the intent design guidelines such as facing the street, utilizing attractive landscaping, accessibility, and streetscape. It incorporates SEPTED principles, utilizes sustainable energy production. The parking is screened and minimally viewed and access from the street. The massing is appropriate as the second to fifth stories are stepped back. And this project would add vibrancy and quality design to the downtown. It's just about the project details. So there's a total of 60 units comprising of 21 bedroom units, 25 two-bedroom units, and 15 three-bedroom units. There is also an additional 674 square meters of amenity space, which is not required by the bylaw, but is being provided. The parking has been provided for the residential component, so they are meeting the 60 required parking spaces. There are no visitor parking spaces required. And there will be 121 Class A, bicycle spaces located within the units themselves, and 4 Class B, which are outdoor bicycle spaces. There will be a variance for 9 parking spaces rather than doing cash in lieu, which would equate it to $18,000. And there'll also be 1 loading bay for the food bank. The density bonusing, so they are requesting that it will be 3.0 FAR rather than 2.5, which would require a density bonusing provision. So this on the screen here, that's just to show rendering as viewed from Henry Avenue. This view here would be viewed from Henry Avenue and the side laneway. So from here, you can see that there is a rooftop patio component off the rear, and along the laneway, there will be some art murals. And the food bank would primarily be accessed from the intersecting laneway and Henry Ave corner. Again, this is just a view from the side laneway and the rear laneway. Again, just showing the concealed parking structure, exposed parking spaces at the back. That's to help with on-site stormwater management. And again, some murals and the rooftop patios for the residents to use. And this image here, again, just shows the east and south elevations. So again, from Henry and from the lane. So this is a side profile view of the project fronting Henry Avenue. As you can see, as mentioned before, the second to fifth stories are stepped back. It utilizes SEPTED principles, so SEPTED meaning crime prevention through environmental design, which essentially means that the building or the site is designed in such a way to reduce any potential criminal activity, provides eyes on the ground, and to essentially mitigate people from, potential risky activity, if you will. Additionally, in this project, it uses solar energy on the rooftop to help offset energy costs. Again, this is the view from the lane, side lane and the rear lane. Again, just showing those SEPTED principles. So the red dotted arrows denoting some, visual onto the lane below and onto the back, onto the patio. The rooftop patio does utilize trees, which would increase urban forestry and help reduce the heat island effect, whereby that means that concrete surfaces retain a lot of heat, and then at night they dissipate that heat, which increases the general overall heat in our communities. So by incorporating some flora into our designs, we're able to help reduce that, though not totally. So this image here just outlines what the kind of the uses on the first story. So in the orange color, that is the parking spaces. So again, that'll be up to 60 parking spaces for the residents. There'll also be 61 Class A bicycle parking in the blue areas of the on the site plan here. And the yellow area is the loading bay, which would be utilized by the food bank. The top, the light green areas are the utility rooms. So this would be your mechanical, solid waste areas. And of course, the the dark green is for residential access and for the on-site office. And the dark blue is for the commercial component. So that would be for the Summerland Food Bank and Resource Center. The second story, just highlighting the uses on this level. So green, meaning that this is kind of the apartment residential living area, and the light blue would be the amenity space, which would be the rooftop patios. Within the amenity space, there would be flower beds, gardens, a playground area, seating areas for the residents to use. This image here just highlights, or rather shows, that from the third stories to the fifth story, it's just predominantly just apartments, regular residential uses. And this is the rooftop plan, just showing the solar array and the utility access. So from a design perspective, so for the facade treatment, it uses a contemporary or considered a modern design. The proposal is utilizing a variety of materials. So for example, it's utilizing wood grain metal paneling. It's using a variety of colored metal fascia, white stucco, and brick cladding. This image here just shows the landscape plan. So it is in a courtyard format. There is flora in the plaza area. As mentioned before, there are garden flower beds for residents, shaded seating areas, use of pollinator plants, the use of resilient and indigenous flora, playground equipment, pergolas, and picnic tables to be used by and the enjoyment for the residents. This application went to the Advisory Planning Commission on January 26th, 2024. Overall, there was support of the project. There were a couple comments regarding the murals and potential vandalism, to which the applicant responded that it use a resilient paint, and then also in the future, the murals could be repainted to reflect, any artistic value of the day. Yes, so that was for the EPC. And so the Advisory Planning Commission supported the approval of development permit number DP 24001. This application was referred to departments within the district, and the comments are from standard, infrastructure upgrades requirements to meet such a proposal, and also obviously to meet the BC building code and fire codes. So just to summarize, overall, the project meets the goals and objectives of the OCP and the design guidelines. It does meet the general zoning requirements other than the variance for parking. So 9 spaces for the commercial component of parking, and then the height to go from 4 stories to 5 stories, or I believe 15 meters or 17.5. It would contribute to much needed housing within the district. It is close to services, retail areas, of course, because it's in the downtown, and would be easily accessible via walking or cycling. And staff is recommending that council supports this downtown development permit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tyson. Council, do you have any questions for staff? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a quick question through to our Director of Planning. Solar panels on the roof, 400 amp service or better. Do we have to amend our bylaw? Sorry for bringing that up, Mr. CEO.
Through Deputy Mayor, Councilman, I'm not too sure on that question. There is going to be, I think, a electrical upgrade component with this project required. There has been already discussions with our electrical utility on the requirements of this project on the existing infrastructure.
Right. Because I'm aware, as we have now, you're not allowed to have solar on anything over 400 amp service. And we're going to discuss that later.
CAO.
Yeah, thank you, through the mayor to Councillor Van Elf for bringing that up. So even under the current program and bylaw, people can produce as much as they want for their own consumption, which a building like this would have very significant consumption. But it's in council's priorities to revisit that bylaw to explore what changes might need to be made for putting power back on the grid, which in terms of the net metering piece you're talking about would be a discussion on that as well. So, yeah.
Thank you for the clarity.
Any other questions? Councillor Barkle.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think that Tyler, you mentioned a couple of times 9 commercial spaces, but the variance is for reduce it from 7 to 0.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so it is from 7 to 0. That's the one part of this that I have a difficulty with. Where, you know, it's going to be messy with all the people in the area and the parking, and isn't there somewhere we could squeeze 2 or 3 into this design? Because yeah, 0 is just not a very big number.
The Deputy Mayor, maybe I'll take that one. I do want to point out that the architects strived pretty hard to try to accommodate the zoning bylaw requirement of 1 parking stall per residential unit. So there is 60 stalls that are being proposed as part of this project on the main floor. I think that was difficult, if correct me if I'm wrong there, Tom, the architects in the crowd there, to try to design. So that was, I think, their priority. I think that the commercial component is definitely something council has to weigh in here. And this is an area that there isn't a lot of potential commercial uses along that strip of the street, definitely more so maybe on Municipal Hall side. But there could be some open spaces along the street for commercial purposes during the day activity for the food bank.
I'm going to go to Councillor Betts first, and then we'll go to Councillor Patton.
Thank you. And thank you for the presentation tonight, Tyson. I think overall that this proposal is quite strong. I can appreciate where the variance to go to 5 stories is reasonable, considering that's where the neighborhood, the downtown neighborhood action plan recommendations are going to be going for 6. So to me, I feel like that's a reasonable request. The parking, I think that is worth having a discussion about. Is it possible that we would be able to put a couple of spots out front that would be 15-minute parking in front of the food bank, just to designate a couple spots that way on street?
Yes, so I believe we are proposing that 4 on-street parking spaces would be allocated to a 15-minute parking maximum in front of the projects.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if I can just add a little more to that. Thanks, Tyson, though, that he's correct. So we did have a lot of discussion with the proponent on this idea of converting some spaces along the street to 15-minute parking in order to free up more spaces during the day as part of the regular use for the food bank. So that's definitely something that we've already provided that request to our engineering and works department, and they're totally okay with that change as well. So that's something that we are recommending we propose with this project.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm on the opposite end. I think that at the rear of the building, there's an alcove that faces the alley. And as you take a look at Cal's drawing here, it looks like they would be able to squeeze in some commercial parking at the back of the building that could be utilized for food bank. So it's to me, I think that the one stall per residential unit works well, and the parking in the rear alley looks like it might make up for some of that commercial parking that could be required for the food bank.
Brad, is there room back there to squeeze in any more parking?
Maybe just a clarification to Councillor Patton, that I think the stalls that you're referring to are open air parking stalls that are already included in that calculation. That's already included in the total of 60 units. Sorry. But some of them, yeah, are open air, not covered. So the rest of them are within the main floor.
Councillor Barkwell.
Will every unit be assigned a parking stall even if they don't have a vehicle? You can obviously, people that live there would have to have some assurance they'll find a parking spot when they come home, but I was just wondered if there's some sort of accommodation or arrangement that could be made that way.
Deputy Mayor, that's actually one that the staff level we're not really sure of. If council wants to ask the applicant directly, that's something that they can choose to ask them if they're in the gallery.
Councillor Barkwell, did you want to ask the applicant?
I guess I'd like to ask. I don't know if there's a good solution or answer, but won't know unless we ask.
Corporate officer, if we want to hear from the proponent, do we need to do anything or can we just invite them up? Okay, would the proponent like to come up and just answer a couple questions for us about parking? Councillor Barkwell, can you just repeat your question one more time?
Thank you. So I was wondering with the, if it's going to be assigned, every unit has an assigned parking spot, and if there's some other arrangement that could be made if there's some people that don't have a vehicle, that those spots could then be used for people coming and going, the staff, people working at the food bank are going to need a place to park, whatever, service trucks, things like that. And 60 units could be visitors to the unit, there could be, or to the location. I see parking as a bit of a problem here. I mean, today I came to the district and I could hardly find a parking spot here at the district offices in the middle of the day.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Barkwell. We don't anticipate that all tenants will have vehicles that are residing there. So we anticipate there will be a surplus of parking, which could be used by visitors to the storefront.
In addition, the food bank has said that their loading bay area can also be used for staff parking. So that gives probably at least another 2 parking spots, maybe more if they're parallel or back to back. So, and like Kelly said, it's very rare in these types of developments that everyone has their own private vehicle. Scooters, bikes, yes. So they have their way of transportation, but very, very often a lot of parking stalls actually sit empty in BC housing developments.
I'm not sure if you two can answer any questions about the food bank. I'm just wondering about their operations in terms of when their clients come, if they all come at once to pick up food or if they come throughout the day, because that would also help alleviate any kind of parking back up in front of the building, as if things like that could be staggered. That's just a thought.
They're giving me the signal that people come and go all day. It's
Okay.
not, they don't come in large groups.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Okay,
They just kind of flow through.
all right,
Don't stay long, keep on going.
perfect. Okay, council, do we have any further questions for our proponents here while they're at the podium? No? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Adrian, do you have, or Councillor Betts, do you have anything else that you wanted to ask at this point?
No, nothing to ask. I would just like to add that I think that the murals are a really great addition, as well as that back outdoor second story space for the residents that actually has some outdoor playground equipment for children, obviously intending that this is a building that's going to cater to families as well as individuals. And so I really think that's a great addition.
Okay, if there are no further comments or, oh, you've got a question? You gonna bring something forward? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would bring back the staff recommendation as presented on the screen.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Patton. Great. Kendra, are we going to be bringing that up on screen? Yeah, okay. So once that comes up, we can just have one final look at it. So we have a mover and a seconder. Any final comments? Councillor Barkwell.
I'll be supporting the motion with some concern about the parking, but I can't ask for the impossible. I just don't know where a parking spot would go, so.
Councillor Van Elfen.
I too, well, I support this. I think it's a great design. I like the appearance of the building. I like the murals also. I think it's gonna be a great addition to our downtown. I do sympathize with Councillor Barkwell about parking. I had issues today parking, and it's that 15-minute spots lasted me all day, so it's pretty good, so.
I'm glad that you admitted that. I parked in a 1 hour, so I'm guilty too. Councillor Patton, did you have anything to add?
No, Madam Chair, I think it's a great design, and I'm not surprised it's a great design. Cal Meiklejohn does great work. So no, I think it's a great design. I think it'll really enhance our downtown core.
Yeah, I agree with the rest of council. I think we're going to have one of the nicest food banks in all of the valley. I wanted to thank everybody that's really worked hard to bring this project to where it is. We've heard about affordable housing for a very long time, and I'm really happy to see that this is catering to families, especially. We have projects for older folks, but we really see a need for families with children that are struggling to find a place to live. So I'm really happy to see that because we need to have children in our community. We need to have all ages. And so this is going to be a really nice addition. And I love the way the building looks. I think it'll really add to our downtown and bring more people downtown to shop and work and play and do all those things. So I'll be supporting this as well. So if there's no further questions, I will call a question then. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on to development variance permit for 1111, I said 410 Blair Street, and Tyson has this one as well.
Thank you. Yes, so we have a development variance permit number 23-003 located at 11110 Blair Street. And the purpose of this variance is to vary the farm home plate to increase it from 905 meters square to 2,803 meters square. Just to give some background, so the zoning is A1, so agricultural small acreage. Of course, it allows for agricultural uses. However, it also allows for residential uses. Though those residential uses are to be located within the farm home plate, the maximum size of the farm home plate in the A1 zone is 905 square meters. And within that farm home plate, a maximum lot coverage of 45%. The residential's component of the zone does allow for either a carriage house or a secondary suite. The official community plan has designated this property as agricultural. The goals within the OCP is to support the agricultural land reserve, maintain the agricultural land reserve, strengthen the economic base of agriculture, support housing and the needs of farmers, and to site residential uses within the farm home plate. Because this property is within the agricultural land reserve, it is subject to the ALC Act and its regulations. Within that act, it permits a maximum size of 500 square meters for principal residences and allows for up to 90 square meters for a carriage house. So for the proposal, as you can see on the screen here, so in the blue outline, that's the farm home plate as proposed. So again, that is to increase it from 905 square meters to 2,803. And it's meant to accommodate a new residence, 1 story, a pool and a carriage house, and some minor accessory residential uses. The red outline within the farm home plate is the principal dwelling. It does have it's proposing a size of 440.8 square meters, or roughly 4,745 square feet. Again, it's single story. It does have an unenclosed patio, which is exempt from ALC gross floor area regulations. The garage is also exempt from ALC gross floor area regulations as less than 42 square meters in size. And this, the principal residence would meet the setback and lot coverage requirements should the farm home plate size be increased. The orange outline is the location of the proposed carriage house. It is approximately 89.7 square meters or 965 square feet, and it's anticipated to be a single story. The green outline is the remainder, which is of farmable land, so it's approximately 1.7 hectares, which is intended to be leased in farms. And this area does include a leased out area of vines within the front, abutting the roadway, and it would be located within the farm home plate. The applicant has provided a street view rendering of the proposal. So this is what it would look like from Blair Street. So as I would say a traditional kind of Spanish or Mediterranean style. And as you can see in the front, it has vineyards within the farm home plate abutting Blair Street and proposed vineyards located around. This application did proceed to the Agriculture Advisory Committee on January 18th, 2024. Overall, there was a lot of discussion regarding the farm home plate and its size and its regulations. The applicant did present to the committee. And the AEC motion was that the Agriculture Advisory Committee recommends that the applicant come back to the AEC with a revised variance application to exclude the front vineyard area from the farm home plate. And it requests an additional variance, which to the AEC, it was 5 in favor and 3 against. Of course, with any application, we refer to our departments. Typical responses that must meet BC building code and fire code requirements. Access to dwellings must be provided, building permits, of course, and is within the 10-minute fire response range. So overall, just to review the application, so this variance is to increase the farm home plate from 905 square meters to 2,803 square meters to accommodate a single detached residence in a carriage house and its accessory uses. The residential uses would be located within the expanded farm home plate. While the proposal does appear to meet the ALC regulations, the proposal is not consistent with the objectives and land use policies within the district's OCP, such as maintaining the integrity of the ALR, limiting the impacts of residential uses on farmlands, and citing residential uses on lower capable land and or within the farm home plate. Residential expansion in the ALR does not support nor strengthen farm production, nor does it maintain the integrity of the ALR. Removing productive agricultural land for residential uses does not strengthen the economic base of farming. Residential uses are to be confined to the farm home plate of 905 square meters, which is reflected in the zoning bylaw. Expanding the farm home plate for residential uses is deemed to be a net negative on agricultural land. As such, and as well, the proposal not consistent with zoning, so the farm home plate intention is to reduce impact on farm production by keeping residential uses to a minimum while allowing the farmers to live on the property. So for these reasons, staff does not support the variance to increase the farm home plate from 905 square meters to 2,803 square meters. And because this is a staff recommendation for denial, the applicant has provided a presentation to council. Thank you.
The applicant like to come to the podium? And we have the presentation.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Council. My name is Heather Shedden. I'm the owner of People Plus Space, a land use planning and architectural design firm located in Summerland. I've been working in the Okanagan for over 10 years and have represented a variety of clients throughout the Okanagan through rezoning and development processes. I was previously a member of the Agricultural Advisory Committee in Penticton, so I'm aware and familiar with the concept of the Agricultural Advisory Committee as well as the intent of preserving agricultural land. I'm here today on behalf of the owners of 1110 Blair Street, who are also here in attendance this evening. Whoops. The subject property is located north of downtown Summerland, and the property itself and surrounding properties are zoned as A1. We worked with the district and proposed several variations before finalizing our application. The location of the existing farm home plate is in the same place as the new proposed farm home plate. However, we are applying for a variance to increase the size of the farm home plate. The application meets the rest of the zoning bylaw requirements. As noted in the OCP, agriculture is a significant part of Summerland's contribution to the community and economy. I'm confident in saying that the property owners are supporting agriculture on their private property, which has been demonstrated through the legal lease that is in place for vineyard farming. The proposed site plan demonstrates the area which will be leased for agricultural use and the proposed farm home plate. As noted, staff at the ALC received our application through the District of Summerland and reviewed the application. The ALC deemed that the application meets the requirements of ALR properties. Therefore, on behalf of the client, I'm seeking your support to increase the size of the farm home plate, considering we are meeting other development ALC requirements, and feel that this application should be supported. In terms of the property use, the owner has already leased 3.5 of the 5 acres in a 20-year lease with the intent, once the variants were approved, to lease an additional ½ acre. Therefore, a minimum 80% of the property would be leased for agricultural purposes. In addition, 2 areas included in the farm home plate, as noted in orange, will also be part of the leased lands to the vineyard company. I'd also like to note that these 2 areas in the setback must be included in the farm home plate area. However, without an approved variance on any property, an owner cannot build within a setback. The combined area of these 2 leased properties is approximately 315 square meters. If the areas weren't required to be included in the farm home plate, that would reduce the variance requested. The intent is also, once approved, to fan out vines towards the actual residents on the property located within the farm home plate. Given that the owner is engaged with a reputable vineyard company to their farm on their private property, we believe that the agricultural intent of the property is being upheld and therefore think the variance requested is warranted, especially when we consider that there are multiple A1 properties in Summerland that are not being farmed, but used solely for residential purposes. Despite asking for an increase in the farm home plate, the owners are still leasing a minimum of 4 acres to a vineyard management company. Multiple properties in the neighborhood have farm home plate located approximately in the middle of the property. The location of the existing proposed farm home plate for this subject property, located in the southeast corner, leaves majority of the property for farming. There are 3 properties to the west and one to the east located along Blair Street that have farm home plates located in the middle of the property. This severs the property and viable agricultural land. It also requires a longer driveway to access the residence. As previously noted, there's a 20-year lease in place for 3.5 acres of the property to be farmed. And once the application is approved, additional land will be leased to the vineyard company. In addition, the district has received 5 letters of support from neighboring properties for this application. It is important to note that neighbors are not against this application. The Agricultural Committee was supportive of the overall concept, and staff at the Agricultural Land Commission saw no issue. In addition to Tyson's comments regarding the Agricultural Committee, there was a discussion about precedents in the area, and it was discussed and kind of agreed upon overall that there has been precedents throughout Summerland. Secondly, there was a recommendation to come back with a second variance. However, the second variance wouldn't change the overall proposal. What they were requesting is that we went back and just moved the farm plate away from the front property line. However, that wouldn't change what we've already proposed. This conceptual rendering is a view from the street that shows the building is slightly set back to provide a more aesthetically pleasing approach to the property. The intention of the single-story home is to provide a space for the client's extended family to age in place and is designed for the long term. Due to a debilitating health diagnosis of a family member, the use of mobility aids will be necessary, which requires larger hallways, doorways, access around furniture and cabinetry. This is the reasoning behind requiring a single-story home and therefore not providing a 2-story design, which we recognize would change the overall lot coverage. This private information is being brought forward to Mayor and Council to understand the design strategy and intent. Additionally, the owners already have a family member with autism who lives with them full-time and will continue to do so. The purpose of the carriage house is to provide space for the family member to reside on the property, but still have full family support. There's no intention to provide vacation or any other kind of rental with the carriage house or otherwise on the property. As the clients would like to age in place, it is likely it will need extended family to reside with them in the future, and the scale of the home will provide this opportunity. Thank you for your time and opportunity to present. If you have any questions, myself or the clients would be happy to speak.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Council, do you have any questions? Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm not clear about what the Agriculture Advisory Committee recommended. It says they should come back a revised variance applicant to exclude the front vineyard area. Does that mean move the house forward? Is that what they were? Because it seems to me that, it was brought up that you don't want to bisect a big parcel of land with your house, so as close to the road as possible would be the appropriate thing, I would think. So that's, you're not.
Yeah, through Deputy Mayor to Council Barkwell. There was a lot of discussion at the Agriculture Advisory Committee about the scale of the variance that's being requested just to the one variance. So they thought it would have been more palatable for them to exclude the farmed area in the front, but the reason why that area is included as part of the farm home plate calculation is to avoid a second variance that we have in our bylaw that requires new farm home plates to be adjacent to the road. So that's why it's included as part of that total size. So they said, well, if you're willing to come back and amend your variance application to have these 2 variances and reduce your farm home plate size, we'd be probably in favor of it. But then the applicant has basically said, well, our design hasn't changed, so we just want to continue moving forward. We're not going to go back to the committee.
Councillor Peak.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Brad, this application is very close to what the ALR Commission actually recommends. The size of the house is actually smaller than what the ALR Commission would approve. The carriage house is very, very close as well. I actually find this application quite reasonable. The consuming of the land for lease and agricultural, even within the home plate, increases the amount of land that is being arable and going to be farmed. the size of the dwelling doesn't bother me because it is so close to the ALR commission. I really don't see a great difference to how it could be used. I realize it's against our bylaws, just that I feel it a reasonable use. And when we look at, we can take a lot in an urban property and put 4 dwellings on it. This larger home on this size property doesn't seem that difficult.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. There was a photo that you had brought up. If you could bring that photo up again, showing the adjacent neighbors possibly. And I brought this up at the ALC meeting. I mean, I like this proposal. The fact of the matter is it's close to the road. Very little driveway. They're utilizing the front with vineyard. If you look at that, the neighbors, the one directly to the west, look at the home plate, it literally severs that farm in half. I admire what these folks are doing. They're putting that house as close to the road as possible to utilize the land to the best of its ability. If you drive by there today, you will see the vineyard infrastructure is in. The posts are in, a lot of the infrastructure is done. I go down that road quite frequently because you'll never see traffic on that road. So because of the bumps, but every one of those properties basically bisects. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the second one to the west. We approved a secondary dwelling on that one at the very back of the property because their rationale was they had an existing trail or roadway through their orchard, and that's where they wanted to put that secondary dwelling. I think was when we were on council last time. And that was approved by council. So I see this one as a real improvement to the area. I appreciate the fact that there's letters of support. And I know one of the people is an adjacent neighbor. And I'll tell you right now, if that was a 2-story house, you wouldn't have got that letter of support because you'd be looking right down on them. So this way it kind of blends into the neighborhood, and I think it's a great proposal, and I'll be supporting it.
Councillor Barkwell.
Well, we don't really have a motion on the table yet, so I didn't hear any questions there. So can we? So I'll go ahead with my comments.
Do you have a question or a comment? You brought up a good point.
Just a comment, really.
Okay, do you want to put a motion on the floor
I'll
then?
put the motion as provided, as written by the staff on the table.
So that's a denial.
Yes.
Okay.
And any seconders? Nobody wants to second it.
I don't see a seconder.
I'll put an alternative motion.
I can do that?
I will second.
Okay.
Just to get the.
Get it on the table.
get the
Okay.
conversation happening.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
So-
Okay, it's on the table.
So the farm home plate of a quarter of an acre or so, 900 square meters, was put in by councils previous to any of us being on council. Maybe it was when you were on council, quite a while ago, by this council, and it's been there for 10 years, 12, 14 years to preserve the farming land. So if we've accepted or made exemptions or exceptions to this farm home plate rule, it has undoubtedly been, as far as I can recall over the years, because of topography. I think the one on Blair Street, I think the back piece of the land they argued was really not very suitable for farming. If you look on that picture there, it doesn't look like it's being used. And so to be consistent with, this council turned down a farm home plate request, not that it should be any larger and infringe on the farmable land, but just because it was 47% instead of the currently required 45%. At that time, it was 35, so they went up 12% on the farm home plate coverage. But they were asked for a variance on the farm home plate size itself to go from 35 to 47%, and council turned that application. And here we've got an application to triple the size of the farm home plate for no good reason, for no logical reason other than, well, this is what this person would like. And if that's all you need, we may as well throw that bylaw out the window. It's of no purpose. If everybody comes along and says, this is a nice house and this is where I want it, and I want 3 times the farm home plate, we don't have a farm home plate bylaw. And so I can't support this application. It's against everything that previous 15 years of council have instituted.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am on the total opposite side of the road than you on this, Councillor Barkwell. I think that that's what's been proposed works on this piece of property. I think that the circumstances in which they're asking for a larger single-family dwelling on this property is commendable. I think that they've incorporated, they've already begun the grapes, they've already begun the plantings. They've already come to the table and have started to do what they said they were going to do. So is it larger? Yes, it is. Have we turned down others? Yes, we have. But that's the beauty of the variance process, is each one is taken on its own merits. And for me, I like this design and I will be supporting this one. So thank you.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If this proposal came to us with the proper size home plate located in the middle of that field, like the neighbors, now, and you put an existing driveway through, I would not support it. Because it's in the middle of this farmland. Being that it's where it's located, and yes, it's larger, I can support it because it's right on the road. We're going to utilize way more of the farm than if you stuck it in the middle of the field like these other ones are.
Councillor Barkwell.
I don't really see that as a relevant comparison. The other places are from long before these sort of regulations were, and our current regulations wouldn't have permitted that sort of thing, because for the very reason is that we're trying to preserve farmland by not having monster properties, monster houses on large farm home plates, any distance from the access road. So because those properties are there from who knows when, then it's not any precedent for this. And our precedence has always been to stick to the bylaws, that we have a farm home plate and there has to be a good reason. Topography is usually the good reason, not because this is what I would like because I have a big family or something like that, because anybody can make those arguments, that's, anyhow.
Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm just trying to go back a little bit and how it sounds like the AAC, the Agricultural Advisory Committee, was willing to reconsider this proposal if it was basically reworked with excluding the vines kind of at the front that were going to be farmed. So if it kind of if it suits the ALC requirements, and if it would meet the AAC's recommendations, if it was basically asking for a second variance, but with the exact same drawings, it sounds like our AAC would potentially approve it. So I can see where both sides are coming from. I see where Councillor Barkwell is arguing against it. He and I have been of similar mind on some of these home plate opportunities. But with this one in particular, I'm definitely open to the discussion.
Councillor Peak.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. A variance opportunity is just that. They've come with a variance opportunity and they've laid out why they're asking for that variance. I understand Councillor Betts' remarks, and yes, the AAC would have looked at this if they came back. So we could defer it and say, come back and do the second variance and exclude the portion of the home plate, and it'll be vines, but it wouldn't alter what would be on the property. I think this variance is reasonable. I appreciate the fact that they have brought the house closer to the road. We do have a shorter driveway, and like, as I say, both the dwellings, both the carriage house and the house are within the parameters that the Agricultural Land Commission goes with. And I know that isn't what we normally go with, but if you were to look at how you would ask about a variance, something that approaches those parameters makes sense to me. So I believe in the opportunity for variances, and I believe that this is a reasonable variance.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillor Betts did bring up something I was thinking about, and that is regards to the Agricultural Committee saying, come back with another variance. So basically what we're saying is, let's add another layer of red tape, and we're going to charge you more money because we're going to add a second variance to this application. Where is the common sense in that? I'm sorry, but that I'm sorry, but again, I will be moving forward with this application to approve.
Hey, does anybody, Councillor Van Elfen?
I'd like to put a motion on the table that council.
Sorry, we have a motion right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
Councillor Bartcall brought forward the staff recommendation, which is denial, and we got a seconder just so that we could discuss it.
Can I call a question?
Yep, so if there's no further discussion, then we're going to vote on this one. And again, this is for the staff recommendation. So all in favor of the staff recommendation? Okay, and against? Okay, so that recommendation is defeated then. Go ahead, Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, that council approve a variance for lot 19, et cetera, as presented on the screen.
So that hasn't been updated yet, but it will be to approve. Okay, Councillor Peak, seconder. Okay, any further comments? Councillor Barkwell?
Well, if the council passes this variance, I don't know why you wouldn't grant every request that came along for a larger. Just ignore the farm home. Tell the people of Summerland to come into the planning department and not to worry about the farm home plate rule, because you don't nearly need any reason that you want a larger farm home plate other than that's what suits you for your house and your building design. So maybe we should get rid of that bylaw.
Okay, any further comments? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's five. And then against? Councillor Barkwell? So that is approved. Thank you. Okay, we are moving on to 9.3. This is an OCP and zoning amendment for two addresses on King Avenue. And Shannon has this one.
Good evening, Council. Yes, tonight I'll be presenting the following for an official community plan and zoning amendment at 14003 and 14009 King Avenue. And this is to facilitate a lot boundary adjustment. Both lots, 14003 and 14009, are currently designated administration. And the applicants are seeking to redesignate to the low density residential intensification. In regard to zoning, both lots are institutional along with the church. This zone is intended to accommodate major community facilities that aid the institutional, cultural, and educational needs of our community. For example, community recreation buildings, courthouses, places of worship, and libraries. Up until now, both lots have single-family homes on them. The proposed zoning is RSD1, which is our residential single detached intensive zone. This zone matches the current use. This zone change will accommodate the redevelopment of single-family homes on smaller lots, as well as create infill opportunities for the future. As I said, both lots are currently owned by the Roman Catholic Church of Nielsen, which abuts the property here, as you can see on the survey. 14009, which is the north property, is used as the rectory for the priest. And 14003, the south property, which abuts the middle school, is privately rented as a single-family home. Excuse me. The rear property lines are currently located within the church parking lot and encompass a row of parking stalls, as you can see here in the blue dotted line. The red dotted line indicates where the new boundary will go if approved. As you can see from this comparison table, the vast differences in regulations and uses between the lots are zoned, and what they're actually being used for is quite extreme, obviously, between institutional and a residential zoning. This view here is of 14009 King Avenue, looking towards the middle school. And the end of the avenue on the other property of 14003 at the end of the no end road. As you can see from this photograph, the current rear boundary lines are for both lots are encroaching on this church parking lot. To separate the three properties into their own entities, a boundary line adjustment has been applied for, as well as the aforementioned rezoning and OCP amendments. The change in boundary lines triggers a review of the church's parking stall requirements, and a revised parking plan was required. Was a requirement of these applications to satisfy the fire department's conditions of application. Through our internal and external referrals, no significant concerns or comments were raised from this circulation. The parking plan, as aforementioned, was satisfied, and no objection to retaining the road dedication for the turnaround at the end of the avenue was offered. The application was presented to our Advisory Planning Commission, and the following resolution was supported, with most comments tailored towards how much this application will align with the revision of our zoning bylaw in Bill 44. The administration of the church held a public engagement evening, which I attended, as well as 7 members of the public. Most questions were in relation to what the church's intentions were if the application was approved. So to summarise, rezoning to a residential designation will allow for possible additional housing units. It is consistent with our surrounding neighbourhood. And this request complements the objectives and goals of Bill 44 and provincial guidelines for increased infill and development. The boundary adjustment will also allow separation from the church's titles and simplifies redevelopment for the owners in the future. Staff are recommending approval of this application and that a public hearing be held on March 19th to receive public feedback. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you for that report. Council, do you have any questions? Councillor Peak.
Thank you very kindly, Deputy Mayor. If I could ask The boundary adjustment is concurrent with the OCP and the zoning amendment.
Through the chair to councillor, yes, it is.
Anyone else have any questions? No, okay, seeing none, would somebody like to bring this forward? Councillor Peak as presented?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Patton seconding?
Yes.
Okay, so that is for a public hearing then on March 19th. Okay, there's no further discussion. I will call the question. All in favor? Right, and any opposed? Seeing none, carries unanimously. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, moving along. We don't have any bylaws for adoption. No business from our community of the whole. Notices of motion. Any councillor have a notice of motion? No? Okay. Councillor reports. Does anybody have anything that they wanted to share tonight? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I attended the Agriculture Advisory Committee meeting and the planning meeting. What do they call that one? You were there. Here you were. Development Process Committee. I attended that. Deputy Mayor did my report on the RDOS meeting that we were both at, and it was, I think I know more about Bill 44 than I really want to know. And it was interesting to hear about their water meter plans in the future. And what else? Oh, Friday night, I had the absolute honor to go with my wife to the play at the school, Newsies. And our granddaughter was in it, and it was really well done. And I commend the students at Summerland Secondary and all the staff and supporting staff and stuff, because they really do a really great job. And it was pretty much a full house. Thank you.
Good. All right. Anyone else? Councillor Peak.
I could comment on the high school on the production as well. It was fabulous. Aren't we glad we have a high school in our community and that they do such programming? Richard Barkwell and I attended the Builders Breakfast, and it was very interesting. I learned several things I hadn't heard about before on rain screens, and that's a misnomer because it's an air gap so that the water doesn't get pushed in. That's why you get all those condos with great waterfalls going through them. They talked about the step code. It was just a very informative presentation. And there were people throughout the valleys who I got to meet. I didn't sit with people I know. I sat with other people, and it was very nice.
All right, thank you. Councillor Betts, go ahead.
There we go. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to mention that I had attended the School District 67's Long Range Facilities Plan meeting back on February 7th, which was talking about the large scale reorganization of our school districts, schools and student populations. It was well attended and an interesting meeting. Of course, in Summerland, the discussion is to close Giants Head School and turn the middle school into Summerland Elementary, and all the Giants Head students would be moved there, and it would be a K-6 school, and then our high school, our secondary school, would become 7-12. So lots of discussions about the benefits and, of course, the limitations for our students and what it would mean. At the end of the day, Giants Head Elementary is 50 years old and has significant maintenance issues that are going to be very expensive. And I can understand the long range facilities plan, but I think there's also a discussion to be had about how our students will benefit or face difficulties in these challenges. So I look forward to continuing to take part in the public consultations, both as a parent and as a member of council here in Summerland. And second to that, I would just like to say thank you for having me on Zoom for 2 council meetings in a row. I apologize. I have been very sick 2 different times, and I didn't want to get anybody else in this same situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Betts. Thank you for updating us about the school board. That's really helpful. And also, we hope you feel better. This is what happens when you have children in elementary school. You're just perpetually sick for several years. Councillor Barkwell.
As you mentioned, I attended the verbal judo, it's called, session put on by Pat Hawks as a deputy fire chief, a very good presenter. And I enjoyed the whole day. I felt I learned something. And the breakfast, abilities breakfast put on by the community climate, how do they, sometimes they have these acronyms, but the Community Climate Action Committee or something. And I thought what I found most interesting was laying out and explaining the new step codes and the mechanical aspects, sort of the two aspects of it, the mechanical part and the building part. And it's going to be quite relevant to what I understand is coming up to council and trying to understand what we might do for Summerland, whether we do want to or not go ahead of the provincial requirements for the step code, and also what might be done with the eco village and where we. So it's a lot to take in, and being able to hear it all twice by having it last week and then again when it comes to council from our staff is quite beneficial.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Patton?
No, I'm good.
Nope, okay. All right, so the last thing on our agenda is the public comment period. So this time you can comment on anything that relates to local government interest. So if anybody would like to come to the podium, now is the time. You have 2 minutes and you just need to state your name and your civic address. And remember to turn the mic on. Thank you. Turn your mic on. There you go.
Ray Colbus, 14516 Ninth Street. 2 items I'd like to talk briefly about. First is, I would like to make a comment about the water situation we have coming on this coming year. I lease or own approximately 30 acres. I'm quite concerned about the amount of water we may have or not have this season, and I'd like to make a proposal that the council look at some sort of town hall meeting for those in the agricultural industry to give us a better idea of what's really going to happen here. I'm looking to turn over one of my fields this year to replant, and I don't want to waste my resources to do that and my labor. And then secondly, I don't want to be able to be stuck with lack of income and or having to deal with other issues relating to the lack of water. I've talked to Devin Van Mueller, and I've talked to some other people here in the administration here about this, and I think I've taken an application to do this. You might consider doing that for the rest of the community. Second issue is regarding the forestry cleanup abatement you're doing on the west side of Deer Ridge. I've seen the map that allocates different areas you're doing, and I understand that the grant that you got from that source is taking care of the westerly portion up McCallum Road and working towards Deer Ridge. But there's a strip of land that you've also allocated along the old plume line, working which is above the properties on Ninth Street. And I've talked to the neighbors along that side of the street, and we're looking to do a fire watch program with the fire department for our properties there. But we're concerned about that piece of strip along that along the plume line is going to be left till a number of years ago until funding is available. And I would like to put forward that maybe we can look at that area there to take care of that before it encroaches onto our properties as a fire hazard. Any questions? I can take.
Thank you, Rick. CAO, with these two items, could staff follow up with Rick?
Yes, Madam Deputy Mayor, I'll follow up with the fire department and
Okay.
staff on this item.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
That's great, thank you. Oh.
Sorry.
Hi there.
Good evening, Madam and Council. My name is Rick Littner, 9009 Gilman Road. Just wanted to talk about the parking for the new development on Henry. As we know, downtown is lacking of parking as it is. Being in that situation on a past development, being given different options of what was available, really wasn't there as it is now. Parking lots in town are being utilized by customers, owners, and they're full right now. For this 60 unit development, which I think is very nice development. I hear the comments on how if a parking spot's not being utilized, how we can maybe share it with somebody else. 60 units have 60 friends. So sooner or later, someone's coming by. If you give your spot away, how do you allocate who's going to park where? Service vehicles that are showing up to service the building, to service the buildings around that building, need parking spots. And I don't think I'm being humorous, but I think there's more parking in the back alley right now than there is on Main Street on Victoria. So to say that there's an abundance amount of parking and we have room for more, I think you're looking for congestion. So I have a lot of other comments. I would like to find out more info, but I think I need to come and ask some questions. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Great to be back. I think I have this figured out now. Ken Gray, 9723. I still don't know my address. Thompson Road. Really appreciated the conversation about the Henry Street project, and I'm so glad to hear support, not only from the chamber, but from others in the room and from councillors. It is no surprise that housing, coupled with affordability or accessibility, is an issue of national, provincial, and local concern. It will always be with us, certainly for the foreseeable future. It's interesting to note that many of us who live in Summerland are privileged to have the resources to be able to live here because it is not cheap. And as I've read the project materials, a variety of persons will have access to this and will be able to call Summerland home. Yeah, I certainly agree with the parking concerns, and it sounds like it's pretty tight in there. I'm also confident that with good governance and good communication, those details will be able to be worked out, and they won't be the only ones. Finally, it's interesting, the quote often is attributed to Mahatma Gandhi. It actually is from Hubert Humphrey, a former vice president of the United States. And he essentially said the quality of a community or a national politic is determined by the way in which it treats those who are poor or in any way disabled. It's great to know that Summerland, in particular through Parkdale Society and other organizations, has developed and continues to develop good housing strategies. That will make the difference. Someone mentioned earlier tonight that we have as a community cared very well for those nearing their riper years or the end of life. It's time to do more work for those in their middle years. Thank you, Council, for your opportunity to speak and for your service. I haven't been to a council meeting for a very long time. My wife and I lived here 20 years ago, and I was part of a community plan review committee. We moved elsewhere, and 4 months later, the mayor of the day fired them. So I really wonder what happened there. Oh, there's one thing missing from the Henry Street proposal. Included, there is no off-leash dog park. Just saying.
Oh, on the roof.
Thank you very much for your comments.
How do you follow a comedian? Sharon Mance here, 4416 Williams Avenue, Summerland, BC. And I too want to thank all of the people who sit before us that volunteer for this, because I know it's a tough job, and there's not an easy way to please everybody. So I miss the ability to comment in the moment when we can actually help inform your decisions. So I sit here too, bringing up things that I would have liked to have brought up a little sooner. I think the Henry Avenue location, I didn't hear a discussion about handicap parking for people coming to pick up resources. I think that you're going to find that you're going to have that constraint there too, because a lot of people who have an issue also require the services of the food bank. So I think that should be considered. And I also think that should be front and foremost in the within the building. And as far as the number of parking spaces, I know that the other BC housing places, many of them don't require as many parking spots, but many of them are in well-serviced transit locations. You know, if you think about Vancouver, we've got, well, a little bit less. So that's a concern for me. Having been, you know, the chair of the high school PAC for a number of years, and the one that helped get the change to the building during our time supporting the principal in that, I think that having that balcony will be a wonderful invitation to high school students. Just saying that there might be some that climb up there as they used to climb up on top of the high school. So something to consider in the design. And I also heard the idea that staff could park in the delivery zone. So now I'm just wondering about where the fire trucks are supposed to go. Like it sounds like we're saying that visitors and staff and everybody can go on the same spaces. So we can't have all of those things. So I think the parking is an issue. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon. Anybody else like to comment tonight? Anybody want to come up for a second time? Marianne, I see you hiding in the back there. No? Hey, I'll call one more time if anybody'd like to speak, and we don't have anybody online. All right. Okay.
Sharon, 4416 Williams, once again. The Blair property, I think that, you know, I like hearing that people declare their conflicts of interest. I'm not saying there was any conflict of interest, but I think there is minds wondering, and to deal with those issues up front is always productive. I also think that council missed an opportunity to say, well, the vineyard is a special area. We could have modified that recommendation from council. Because now I think the family that's moving there is going to use it in the intent that you've all understood it. But I don't know that a future group living there would do the same. And I think I agree with Councillor Barkwell, but I don't know how to solve that, but I think we should reflect on that decision tonight because I'm uncomfortable with that one particularly. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So seeing no further comments then, I will call for an adjournment. Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Peak, all in favor? Great, thank you. So meeting adjourned at 7:38. Thank you very much.